9:56 in the morning, September 21st, 1953. A shape appears on the northern horizon above Kimpo Air Base, South Korea, and it is moving wrong. Swept wings, slender fuselage, 400 miles per hour and diving hard. Every American pilot in Korea knows that silhouette. It lives in their nightmares. It is a MiG-15, the most advanced Soviet fighter jet on Earth, and it is coming straight at them. Air raid sirens tear open the morning. Gunners sprint for their stations. Ground crews scatter across the tarmac. F-86 Sabres sit in neat, complacent rows, parked, unarmed, unready. Because the Korean War has been over for 56 days. Nobody expected this. Nobody could have. The radar at Kimpo was shut down that morning for routine maintenance. The base is completely blind. No intercept call. No scramble order. No warning of any kind. The most feared aircraft of the Cold War is at 400 miles per hour, and there is not a single thing anyone on that base can do to stop it. And then it lands. The MiG rolls out between two parked Sabres and stops. The canopy opens. A young man in a North Korean flight uniform climbs down onto American soil. He reaches back into the cockpit and pulls out a photograph, the official portrait of Kim Il-sung, Supreme Leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. He drops it on the tarmac, raises both hands. His name is No Kum-sok. He is 21 years old. He has just handed the United States the most strategically valuable object of the entire Cold War. But here is the thing that will haunt American intelligence officers for years afterward. They have been trying to get this exact plane for 3 years. They have spent millions of dollars on a covert operation, codenamed Operation Moolah, that offered $100,000 to any communist pilot who delivered a functional MiG-15 to the South. That is more than $1 million in today's money. They dropped over 1 million leaflets from B-29s across North Korean air bases along the Yalu River. They beamed radio broadcasts from Japan 24 hours a day into communist airspace. They offered freedom. They offered riches. They offered a new life. No Kum-sok never heard a single word of it. To understand what No has just done, you have to understand what a MiG-15 means in the autumn of 1953. The Soviet jet made its combat debut over Korea on November 1st, 1950, and it rewrites the rules of the war overnight. American pilots flying F-80 Shooting Stars and F-84 Thunderjets report something they have never encountered. A swept-wing jet that climbs faster, flies higher, and hits harder than anything in the United Nations inventory. The MiG-15 is powered by a Klimov VK-1 turbojet engine, producing nearly 6,000 pounds of thrust. It carries two 23mm cannons and a single 37mm cannon that can tear an aircraft apart in a single pass. Its service ceiling tops out near 50,000 feet. The F-86 Sabre, America's best answer, is its equal in some parameters, but only when piloted brilliantly and only at lower altitudes. In the canyon of air above the Yalu River that Allied pilots call MiG Alley, American airmen are dying, and they cannot fully explain why. What U.S. intelligence does know is this: the MiG-15 is Soviet technology that the West has never examined up close. Its aerodynamics are classified. Its engine specs are guarded like nuclear secrets. Soviet advisors fly alongside North Korean and Chinese pilots, but the Soviets never let their aircraft fall into enemy hands intact. Every MiG that goes down in combat is either obliterated on impact or recovered by communist forces before American recovery teams can reach the wreckage. In early 1953, Lieutenant General Glenn Barkas, commanding the 5th Air Force, signs off on a proposal that lands on the desk of Brigadier General Orville Anderson at FEAF, Far East Air Forces, in Tokyo. The proposal becomes Operation Moolah. The approved plan offers $50,000 to any communist pilot who flies a functional MiG-15 to South Korea. The first pilot to do so gets a $100,000 bonus, political asylum, resettlement in any Western country, and complete anonymity if desired. On April 1st, 1953, the Joint Chiefs of Staff formally authorized the operation. It fails completely. The reason is almost embarrassingly simple. The leaflets are dropped along the Yalu River, but North Korean MiG-15 pilots are not stationed along the Yalu. They are based at Dandong Air Base and other fields across the border in Manchuria, kept deep inside Chinese territory by Soviet advisors who do not trust them near the front lines unsupervised. The leaflets flutter down over empty air bases and uninhabited terrain. Not a single communist pilot defects before the armistice is signed on July 27, 1953. Operation Moolah is officially a failure. And then, 56 days later, a 21-year-old lieutenant from Sinuiju hands them everything they wanted, for reasons that have nothing to do with money. No Kum-sok is born on January 10, 1932, in Sinuiju, a port city pressed against the Chinese border in what is now North Korea. His father is a businessman, educated, ambitious, the kind of man who builds something in the world and believes in the dignity of owning it. The communists call men like that class enemies. When the Soviet-backed regime under Kim Il-sung consolidates power after World War II, No's father is among the first targets. The year is 1947. No is 15. One evening, his father does not come home. No official notice arrives. No arrest warrant. No trial. The man simply ceases to exist, absorbed into the mechanism of a state that eliminates inconveniences quietly. It will be decades before No learns his father almost certainly died in a political purge, executed and buried in an unmarked grave for the crime of having been successful before the revolution arrived to make success criminal. His mother tells him, "Keep your head down, survive." So he does, but not passively. No Kum-sok makes a calculation. He is 15 years old, the son of a man murdered by the state, living inside a surveillance apparatus that watches every citizen at every hour. Open resistance is death. Escape over the demilitarized zone is nearly impossible. The most heavily fortified strip of land on the planet, patrolled on both sides, mined in the middle. But a pilot has access to machines that cross borders in minutes. He spends the next 3 years becoming exactly the kind of young man the regime wants to see. He joins the Youth League. He memorizes Marxist doctrine. He cheers at the propaganda rallies with practiced conviction. Inside, he is cataloging exits. When the Korean War breaks out in 1950, No applies to the North Korean Air Force Academy. He aces every examination. At 17, he is already soloing in the Yak-18, a light basic trainer, and Soviet advisors are taking notice. He trains under Russian officers at bases in Manchuria, men who speak through translators and treat their Korean students as tactical assets rather than human beings. The training is brutal. Cadets who wash out go to frontline infantry units, effectively a death sentence given the casualty rates of the war's early months. No does not wash out. By 1951, he is qualified on the MiG-15 bis, the updated variant powered by the VK-1 engine, assigned to the 2nd Regiment of the Korean People's Air Force. His unit becomes the first North Korean MiG-15 squadron committed to combat, flying from Uiju Airfield in North Korea. Then, the B-29 raids come. The Americans bomb the field repeatedly, and the MiGs relocate to Dandong in Manchuria. For most of the rest of the war, No flies combat missions from Chinese territory. 100 sorties in total against F-86 Sabres over MiG Alley, at altitudes approaching 40,000 feet. He never shoots down a single aircraft. He never gets shot down either. He is waiting, watching, learning the rhythms of his own surveillance. The armistice is signed on July 27, 1953. No knows immediately that his window is closing. War gives a pilot reasons to fly, reasons to be alone in the sky, reasons for fuel loads that take you far from base. Peace brings routine. Routine brings scrutiny. Scrutiny kills escape plans. He has 8 weeks. He identifies a training sortie from Sunan Air Base on the outskirts of Pyongyang as his moment. The base has a runway long enough for a MiG-15 to take off. The aircraft requires at least 2,400 meters of paved surface, and the post-armistice flight schedule is loose enough to give him a narrow window of independent operation before his wingmen notice the deviation. He knows the odds. He has calculated them with the same precision he brings to aerial combat. 20% chance of success. He decides that is enough. On the evening of September 20th, 1953, No Kum-sok goes through his pre-flight preparations with complete outward calm. He checks his aircraft, MiG-15 bis, tail number Red 2057. He reviews his assigned training route. He sleeps, or tries to. At dawn on September 21st, he climbs into the cockpit for the last time as a North Korean pilot. The plan is brutally simple and terrifyingly fragile. He will take off on his assigned heading. Then, instead of turning to complete his training pattern, he will push the throttle to maximum power, drop to low altitude to avoid radar coverage, and fly south. He will cross the front line, technically still a live military boundary despite the armistice, and find a runway long enough to land a MiG-15. Kimpo Air Base is 40 miles south of the DMZ. The 4th Fighter Interceptor Wing is based there, flying F-86 Sabres. The runway is long enough. The only problem? American pilots have not been briefed that a friendly defection is possible. They have standing orders to intercept and engage any communist aircraft violating South Korean airspace. No kum-sok has a 20% chance, and he is about to find out if that holds. The MiG-15 clears the runway at Sunan and climbs hard into a pale Korean morning. No pushes north briefly, the expected direction, then banks sharply south and drops the nose. He is running at full military power, and the aircraft is doing what it was built to do. It is fast, and it is violent in its acceleration. He crosses the DMZ at low level. No radar picks him up. No intercept aircraft scramble in time. He comes in over Kimpo at speed, and everything nearly ends right there. An F-86 Sabre is on final approach from the south. The MiG and the Sabre are coming at each other from opposite ends of the same runway. No brakes left. The Sabre brakes right. The two aircraft miss each other by margins their pilots will describe later in terms of feet. No touches down. Rolls out. Taxis the MiG between two parked Sabres. Above the field, Australian Gloucester Meteors from No. 77 Squadron RAAF are scrambling to defend against what everyone assumes is a communist attack. On the ground, military police are running. Gunners are swinging their weapons onto the unfamiliar aircraft. No kum-sok opens the canopy, takes out the photograph of Kim Il-sung, and drops it on the runway. He raises his hands. The Americans are not sure what to do with him. Within the hour, he is in the headquarters building at Kimpo, then transferred by helicopter to a 5th Air Force intelligence facility at Oryudong, just outside Seoul. The debriefings begin the following morning and will continue 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, for nearly 7 months. No provides everything. North Korean and Chinese air order of battle, Soviet training methodologies, base locations, unit structures, command personnel, and logistics. He has 100 combat sorties in his memory, and he reconstructs each one. His aircraft is disassembled that same day and loaded onto a C-124 Globemaster II for transport to Kadena Air Base in Okinawa. American engineers descend on it like surgeons. Then the test pilots arrive. Captain H.E. Tom Collins flies the MiG-15Bs first, marking it with USAF insignia for the tests. Then, Major Chuck Yeager, the man who broke the sound barrier in the Bell X-1 6 years earlier, climbs into the cockpit. Yeager flies the MiG hard. He reports what American engineers have suspected but could never prove. The aircraft is fast and has a formidable ceiling, but it is unstable at high Mach numbers. Its controls lock up approaching the transonic range. American F-86 pilots who have been dying in MiG Alley had an advantage they never knew they possessed, and by the time they learn it, the war is already over. When intelligence officers finally tell No kum-sok about Operation Moolah, about the $100,000 waiting for any pilot who did exactly what he just did, he stares at them. He had no idea. The CIA advises him to decline the reward in exchange for a fully funded university education. No declines the CIA's offer in turn. He takes the money. In 1954, he immigrates to the United States, meets Vice President Richard Nixon, and enrolls at the University of Delaware to study mechanical and electrical engineering on the reward funds. He anglicizes his name to Kenneth H. Rowe. His mother, who had already defected to South Korea in 1951, joins him in America in 1957. He gets out. He builds a life, but 5 other people do not. In North Korea, accountability for No's defection moves swiftly and without mercy. 5 of his comrades and commanders in the 2nd Regiment are executed. Among them is Lieutenant Kun Soo-sung, No's best friend. The general commanding the Korean People's Army Air and Anti-Air Force is demoted. His battalion commander, vice battalion commander, and other unit officers are liquidated. The reprisals, when No learns of them years later from another defector, are the price the regime exacts for the humiliation of one young man's escape. Kenneth Rowe, No kum-sok, goes on to work as an aeronautical engineer for Grumman, Boeing, Pan Am, General Dynamics, General Electric, Lockheed, and Westinghouse. He becomes a professor of aerospace engineering at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He marries a woman from Kaesong, North Korea, another person who found a way out. They raise 3 children. He becomes an American citizen. In 1996, he publishes a memoir, A MiG-15 to Freedom, co-authored with Embry-Riddle professor J. Roger Osterholm. The MiG-15 Beast, tail number Red 2057, is eventually shipped to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. It sits today in the National Museum of the United States Air Force. The United States offered to return it to North Korea. North Korea never responded. No kum-sok died on December 26, 2022, in Daytona Beach, Florida. He was 90 years old. And somewhere in Pyongyang, in an unmarked archive, there is still a file on a pilot who vanished from Sunan Air Base one September morning with a 20% chance and the specific, irreplaceable knowledge that some cages can be unlocked from the inside if you are patient enough and precise enough and willing to live for years in the performance of a loyalty you do not feel. Waiting for a single moment when the sky opens up and lets you through. He had not read the leaflets. He did not need the money. He just needed out. And in the end, that was the one thing no operation codenamed Moolah, no B-29 drop, no radio broadcast beamed into communist airspace, no $100,000 reward could ever manufacture in another human being. The will to be free doesn't have a price. It only has a cost.